Welcome back to the deep dive. So the digital economy is just reshaping everything, isn't it?
It really is.
We're living in this world that's almost defined by this explosion of data. It's everywhere.
Absolutely. Driven by all the digital tools we use and, better internet connectivity, even across Africa.
Exactly. And it's fundamentally changed how businesses operate, how they innovate, how they grow all over the world.
Yeah.
But here's the question that, well, really makes me wonder. How is Africa actually positioned in this incredible, really fast-paced, data-driven transformation? Where does it stand?
That's a vital question. And today we're taking a deep dive into this really fascinating report. It's called Data-Driven Enterprises in Africa, an evaluation of winners and losers.
Okay.
And this isn't just some, high-level overview. It's a meticulously researched study. It's authored by Professor Richard Boateng from the University of Ghana Business School.
Great.
And it's under the auspices of the Center for the Study for the Economies of Africa, CSEA. They're a nonprofit research think tank based in Nigeria.
Ah, okay. So that gives it real credibility, a perspective from the region itself.
Exactly. It gives us a truly grounded, on-the-ground perspective, offering invaluable insights direct from the region.
So our mission today is really to unpack all this information. We want to extract the most important nuggets, those surprising facts, the key takeaways, to help you, our listener, understand how African enterprises are navigating this landscape. It's complex, no doubt, but also undeniably promising.
It is.
You can get a really deep understanding of the current state of data analytics, specifically within indigenous businesses in Africa's private sector. What strategies are they using? How are they using tech? And critically, what are the barriers holding them back?
And, right from the start, the report highlights something significant.
Yeah.
Data analytics within these indigenous African firms, it's still very much in its nascent stages. We're really at the beginning of the journey for a lot of them.
Early days.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, certain sectors are already showing remarkable promise, not just like small improvements, but deriving substantial economic and symbolic value from their data insights.
Okay, like which ones?
We're talking areas like manufacturing, particularly in distribution, health, agriculture, and of course, those online platforms like social media. These are sort of the pioneering fronts where we're seeing real, tangible progress.
Absolutely. So we'll explore specific case studies then, ones that bring these trends to life, give us vivid examples.
Exactly.
And we'll also zero in on those critical gaps, hindering progress, what the report calls the losers.
Yeah.
Not failed companies, right? But the systemic factors holding things back.
Precisely. The challenges.
And finally, we'll look at the proposed next steps, what the report suggests for fostering a truly data-driven Africa. Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start by, grounding ourselves in the current reality. The 21st century, it's increasingly defined by this massive production, analysis, and management of data. It's not just Silicon Valley anymore. It's global. It's geared towards corporate growth. And it's a trend that's really gaining traction across Africa.
Yeah, you see it everywhere, fueled by digital tools, better internet. It's transforming everything from small businesses right up to multinationals.
But despite these big trends, this clear need to use data, there's something that's been, well, relatively overlooked, hasn't it?
There has, and that's how African enterprises are governing the data while they're trying to get value from it. We tend to focus on the flashy analytics,
right,
but we forget the foundations. And when we talk data governance, what we mean are the standards, the rules for how data is collected, stored, processed, used.
Okay.
It covers managing its availability, accessibility, integrity, security, all that stuff. It's basically the bedrock.
Right.
Without good governance, you just have data chaos.
And that brings us straight to a big challenge the report highlights, a really pressing one.
Which is?
Only a few African countries are actively monitoring and regulating all of the data the firms are harvesting. And it's not just an oversight. We're seeing, frankly, painfully slow development of national data governance strategies, robust regulatory frameworks.
So you end up with gaps.
Exactly. Substantial policy gaps, a real lack of uniformity across different countries.
Yeah.
It feels less like a strategy and more like a patchwork of efforts. if that.
Precisely. And this inadequacy, this lack of implementation, combined with, a general deficit in institutional capacity, it means Africa faces a huge risk.
Well, what kind of risk?
Well, if it continues with this business-as-usual approach, it risks widening the gap, the economic gap, the tech gap, with other global economies that are way ahead in using data.
So potentially missing out.
Potentially missing out on the fourth industrial revolution, that whole convergence of digital, physical, biological, tech, AI, IoT, biotech.
Which is all powered by data, fundamentally.
Yeah. Fundamentally. Unlike previous revolutions, driven by steam or early computers, this one runs on data. Being left behind here isn't just missing a trend, it's losing ground globally. Competitiveness, productivity, the future economy structure, the stakes are incredibly high.
Wow. Okay. So recognizing these urgent needs, these big challenges, the study set out with some pretty clear objectives then.
Very clear, very ambitious. It aimed to identify the winners, the firms genuinely gaining value from data, and pinpoint what value they get.
Right.
It wanted to figure out the critical enablers supporting their success, unmask the hindering factors, assess the state of data regulations, which, as we said, are often fragmented,
Right.
and understand how better data governance could maybe help resolve existing inequalities. And then, ultimately, offer concrete, actionable recommendations for Africa's data future. It's a really comprehensive approach.
It sounds like it. Trying to get practical insights.
It really is. And what's particularly interesting is the observation about where data use is spreading. Fintech leads, naturally.
Right.
But the report notes appreciable uptake in other key areas: health, biotech, logistics, education, clean tech, agri-tech.
So, quite broad then.
Yeah, surprisingly broad. And that's why this report specifically zooms in on indigenous non-tech firms in some of these areas to understand their unique experiences beyond just the big tech players.
That makes sense. Get the ground level view.
Yeah.
Now, to give us that broader picture, you mentioned CSEA, the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. They have their own index.
They do, a digital preparedness index. And according to that, Mauritius and Seychelles are leading the pack. Best prepared, indices around 0.66, 0.63.
Okay, leaders.
And at the other end, Chad and Mozambique are least prepared, indices down at 0.32, 0.35.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. And that stark disparity really underlines the urgent need for intentional, coordinated regional efforts. We need to improve preparedness, especially in those less ready countries, to lift all boats, not just the most advanced.
Makes sense. Now, how did they choose the specific case studies for the report? You said they were rigorous.
Incredibly deliberate. The criteria were strict. Each business had to be an indigenous African enterprise.
Right.
Actively using data analytics, operating in at least 3 African countries, and crucially, there had to be accessible, verifiable evidence of their innovative data use and the challenges they faced.
Okay, so solid evidence was key.
Absolutely. It provides a really robust foundation for the conclusions.
And the sectors they chose for the deep dive, they sound quite representative.
They are very illuminating. First, manufacturing, but specifically distribution. Absolutely crucial for supply chains, right?
Really?
But historically, African businesses here have struggled. Traditional approaches, low margins, stagnant sales, high inventory costs. Data analytics is proving key for unlocking improvements.
Okay, so manufacturing, distribution, what else?
Then there's agriculture. Look, global population is booming. The FAO projects we need 70% growth in agricultural output by 2050.
70%? Wow.
Yeah. So non-traditional data sources are becoming vital for food security. Modern tech sensors, satellites, it's generating vast amounts of data that can revolutionize farming. A critical area for data innovation.
Absolutely critical. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is healthcare insurance, essential for universal health coverage, and it naturally produces huge amounts of data, often complex, heterogeneous data.
And prone to issues like fraud, I imagine.
Huge issue. Fraud depletes performance, raises costs, but the report shows how proper data management can really enhance growth, push towards universal coverage, especially as legal frameworks around health info get stricter. The volume and sensitivity make it prime for analytics.
Right. Makes sense. And the last one.
And finally, social media. Not just for chatting, it's an absolute goldmine of consumer data. Businesses can use it for audience analysis, competitive intelligence, product development, really understand customers. But there are challenges. Lack of awareness of tools, unstructured data. It's messy.
And risky too, right? Cybercrime.
Increasingly prone to digital theft, cybercrime. Adds complexity. So these 4 sectors, manufacturing, agriculture, health insurance, social media, they offer this rich tapestry of data efforts in Africa, shows the potential and the hurdles.
Great overview.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into the first case study then. One of the winners, PZ Cussons in manufacturing and distribution, multinational premium products. But the focus is on their work with indigenous distributors.
Exactly. That's what's really insightful. They're focused on working with these distributors, essentially turning them into data-driven enterprises. It's about elevating the whole ecosystem, not just their own internal ops.
Interesting. So how did their journey start?
It's quite instructive. Their data-driven agenda actually began way back over a decade ago, 2009, initial pilots in Ghana.
Okay.
But it really became central, indispensable between 2013 and 2014. That's when they made a strategic, widespread move, automating, digitizing operations, especially distribution. It wasn't a tweak. It was a fundamental shift.
So what did that look like in practice? The analytics, the tech they used?
Well, it's a bit of a masterclass, actually, for implementing data solutions in these kinds of markets. They started by meticulously profiling all customer outlets.
Why was that so important?
Because historically, production was done without accurate demand data. Led to inefficiencies, waste.
Yeah.
They realized they needed to know every item sold, where, to whom. Simple, but revolutionary.
Right.
So they created an insights department. Dedicated data managers making decisions based on granular analytics collected by distributors right from the outlet.
And the tech side.
Technically, they deployed an outreach system. It's a mobile app-based platform, fully integrated with their main sales touch ERP at head office.
Okay.
Crucially, their distributors also got their own ERPs to track stock opening, in-transit, closing, with built-in BI for their own local decisions.
So empowering the distributors, too.
Exactly. And what's really innovative is the mobile version of the ERP. It had GPS, so they could track sales vans, monitor activities, salesman level, distributor level.
A multi-level system then.
Yeah, 3 levels. Central head office for strategy, distributor interface for local management and Salesforce monitoring, and the salesman's mobile app for data capture on the ground.
Wow. And what kind of analytics did this enable?
All sorts. Descriptive sales transactions, routes, diagnostic why certain routes were better, and robust predictive analytics at head office forecasting demand, supply, profitability by location. They could see what happened, why, and what was likely next.
That's comprehensive. Now, what were the critical drivers? What made this work for PZ Cussons and their distributors?
This is really key for anyone trying this. First, the assets. Selling to distributors on credit was huge.
Oh, so?
It wasn't just finance. It incentivized them to adopt the data model and, maybe unexpectedly, help them learn stock and finance management. PZ also used gamification reward schemes for using the system, a powerful magnet.
Gamification. Interesting.
And if distributors lacked the basic IT couple of laptops, Internet PZ supplied it on credit, paid back via rebates. This really opened the eyes of the distributors, as one expert said, changed their view on tech.
So direct support was crucial. What about skills, capabilities?
Meticulously addressed. PZ ran comprehensive training, not just basic ICT, but data analytics, financial statement analysis, tailored for business owners.
Okay.
They set practical minimums for system managers, senior high school, plus basic IT, accessible but effective. And they assigned territory sales managers on the ground support, relationship builders.
Which leads to partnership, I guess.
Absolutely. It evolved way beyond supplier-customer. PZ's team fostered genuine partnerships, commissions via the platform, continuing credit sales, and these digitally savvy distributors, they became known as the intelligent ones.
Ah, the intelligent ones.
Yeah, attracting others because they had access to data, tools to manage their businesses efficiently.
So what kind of value did this generate? You mentioned economic and symbolic earlier.
Both, undeniably. Economic, enhanced revenue monitoring, generation, big efficiency gains in stock management, tracking inventory, finance, sales with precision, optimize ops, less waste.
Right, the bottom line stuff.
But then the symbolic value, which I think is maybe even more compelling, often overlooked.
Like what?
Enhanced reputation for PZ and the intelligent distributors, genuine empowerment for distributors through informed decisions, and critically, much better fraud monitoring, corruption intelligence in the supply chain.
Wow.
It shows how data doesn't just boost profits, it fundamentally changes how a business operates, how it's perceived.
That's a profound insight.
It is. PZ Cussons' genius wasn't just the tech. It was understanding that transformation in these markets often means financially enabling and incentivizing behavior change, credit, gamification for IT, and training. It's a masterclass in hybrid financial tech innovation, turning traditional players into digital partners. Sometimes the most advanced solution needs the most basic human enablers.
Incredible example. Okay, from manufacturing supply chains, let's pivot to agriculture, literally feeding the continent. You mentioned global food demands making data a necessity here. We have two examples.
Two very insightful ones, contrasting but complementary. First, the Solidaridad network, then the fascinating Morocco story.
Let's start with Solidaridad, an international civil society organization.
Yeah, impressive track record, 50-plus years, 40-plus countries. Focus specifically on empowering smallholder farmers, makes them a crucial case study for grassroots data-driven development in Africa.
So how do they operate? Let's take West Africa first.
Okay, West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire. In Nigeria, their NISCOPS program systematically collects data on oil palm smallholders. They use the Open Data Toolkit, ODK, on Android devices, efficient field collection.
What kind of data?
Farmer biodata, basic info, and crucial intervention data fertilizer use, type, frequency, harvesting timeliness. This rich data identifies gaps, creates targeted data-driven improvement plans. Similar projects in Ghana, Swap2, and Côte d'Ivoire, Cocoa Life, using ODK for baseline surveys and ongoing collection.
Okay. What about East Africa? Coffee country.
Right. East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, coffee production. They use ODK there too, collecting specific data from beneficiaries, helps identify unique needs, tailor solutions, and support individually.
And Southern Africa?
Cotton. Southern Africa, South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe. Cotton. Data analytics has been deeply integrated from the start in their cotton programs. Key for insights, resource allocation, better training, optimizing logistics, providing targeted help, ultimately boosting yields and livelihoods.
So the tech they deploy, mostly open source, ODK.
Largely accessible, open source, that's key for scalability. They use descriptive analytic, basic farmer profiles, farm size, type, the what happened.
Okay.
More sophisticated is their predictive analytics, using intervention data to prescribe next best practices, like specific fertilizer types based on history, soil data,
Smart.
and diagnostic analytics to pinpoint issues like poor yield, leading to prescriptive measures. Their reliance on ODK, Kobo Toolkit, often with APIs for aggregation, exporting to CSV for analysis. It's practical, cost-effective, accessible, scalable.
And what enables this? What drives their success?
Collaboration and capacity building are huge, strong partnerships. Financial institutions, advanced savings and loans, Pan-African savings and loans use Solidaridad's farmer data for loan processing. Better risk assessment.
Right, gives farmers access to credit.
Exactly. Asoko, another partner, provides targeted SMS info based on the data. And addressing skill challenges is core. Constant hands-on training and data gathering, analysis within controlled groups, consortia, ensures field agents, partners have the needed capabilities. Continuous upskilling is vital.
And the value generated.
Yeah.
Beyond just the farm.
Significant. Impacts the whole ecosystem. Clear economic value, better revenue monitoring for farmers, access to new resources, partners like those loans, and profound symbolic value. More efficient processes, but more importantly, empowering farmers through informed decisions, moving from intuition to evidence-based practice. It's holistic, improving output and livelihoods, decision-making.
Great stuff. Now, let's pivot to the Moroccan story. You said it's a contrast, more industrial scale.
Striking contrast, yes. Shows how data-driven ag can scale at a more sophisticated level. Agriculture is huge in Morocco, 15% of GDP. And the government's Generation Green strategy aims to connect 2 million farmers to digital services. Strong national commitment. Structured farming companies are Zenabur Domains, Agricoles, African Blue. They're leveraging vast data from advanced sensors, soil, crop health, weather, trends, powering recommendation systems, data mining, time series analytics.
So, really cutting-edge stuff. What kind of tech?
Truly cutting edge. Benefits are profound. Price forecasts, risk management, cost rationalization, measurable yield increases. Take agricultural drones. Used for targeted treatment, diagnostics, crop control. One drone can treat 50 hectares a day for about 12 hectares, saves time, limits losses by applying inputs precisely.
And they gather data, too.
Incredible data. Detailed maps of fertile areas. Analyzing nitrogen, chlorophyll, biomass, water stress. Unparalleled view of the fields.
Leading to precision agriculture.
Directly, precision agriculture. Sophisticated sensors highlight soil nutrients, pH, conductivity granularly. Data stored, processed in the cloud. Optimizes inputs, seeds, irrigation, fertilizers, pesticides, incredibly finely.
Improves yield, reduces environmental impact.
Dramatically. improves yields, and drastically cuts environmental impact. Report cites an 80% reduction in contaminants, minimizing waste, runoff. African bluey, for instance, uses precision irrigation automated drip misting systems like Netajet 4G, Netafirm CoolNet Pro for cooling greenhouses, creating optimal conditions year-round.
So what the Moroccan story shows is...
It shows that while advanced data analytics needs significant capital, it can yield unprecedented gains. Efficiency, sustainability. Going digital isn't just efficiency. It's redefining scale and responsible resource use in a critical sector.
But who adopts this? What are the drivers and enablers in Morocco? It sounds expensive.
It is. The report identifies 3 revealing categories. First, company size and volume. Larger firms, higher turnover, more integration, diversification, they're much more likely to adopt. Small firms, under 5 hectares, family-owned, often lack resources, more hesitant.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, activity and structure. The type of product, high-value added crops justify investment more. Farm ownership structure. And crucially, farmers' education, innovation capacity, age, risk aversion. Older farmers, less education, less likely to adopt. Employee knowledge within the firm also matters.
Okay, and the third?
Third is financial characteristics. Operators' debt ratio, financial expenses, cash flow, all directly influence capacity and willingness to invest.
So the bottom line for Morocco is?
The contrast is stark. Innovative data analytics in agriculture, especially for these big players, clearly needs significant upfront investment. Technical infrastructure, sensors, drones, automation, and human skills. Not cheap. But the potential returns, yield, efficiency, sustainability can be substantial. A compelling case for those who can make the leap.
Fascinating contrast. Okay, let's shift again to the health insurance sector. Data management here is critical, you said, for services, outcomes, and fraud prevention. The case study is RX Health Information Systems.
That's right, RX Health Information Systems. A Ghanaian firm, actually born from an engagement with IQVIA, the global health intelligence leader.
Okay.
They now provide sophisticated health analytics in Ghana, Nigeria, Angola, and have ambitious plans expanding to 15 other African countries, their core business. Reducing health insurance fraud through comprehensive tools, streamlining, fortifying claims processes.
And they tackled a big problem, right? Paper-based data.
Huge, pervasive problem. Health data, mostly on paper, informal processes. Created massive scope for errors, delays, fraud. RX Health tackled this directly. Developed RX Claims Solutions, a platform to formalize, streamline claims for hospitals and pharmacies, bringing order, transparency, accountability.
So what does RX Claim Solutions actually do? What are the modules, the tech?
It's remarkably robust, multifaceted, 4 interconnected modules.
Okay.
First, a payer solution for insurers' efficient claim data collection management. Second, a comprehensive hospital management system, HMS, for health facilities, manages entire operations, collects data on everything, prescriptions, consumption, diagnoses, disease patterns, lab reports.
Very detailed.
Third, a mobile app for patients, manage policies, view claims, book appointments, puts control in their hands.
Nice.
And finally, the backbone, a centralized data warehouse, updates daily, pulls aggregated data from all connected facilities, insurers.
And this warehouse powers the analytics.
Exactly. It powers a range of analytics. Descriptive what happened, top 10 diseases, most prescribed drugs. Prescriptive what should be done, how to price insurance packages based on historical data, trends, and sophisticated patient-level descriptive analytics individual policy usage.
What tools do they use for this?
They leverage Microsoft Power BI for robust visual reports. Dashboards make complex health data intuitive, moving beyond raw numbers.
Right.
PHP handles the immediate descriptive stuff, what happened, crucial for daily ops. But what's really forward-looking is their use of TensorFlow.
TensorFlow. For deep learning.
Exactly, for predictive analytics, forecasting disease patterns, optimizing insurance pricing, even predicting potential fraud hotspots before they cause big losses, moving from reaction to proactive strategy.
Very powerful. What drives adoption of this system? Why do health facilities sign up?
Incredibly compelling reasons rooted in practical needs. For facilities, the main driver is simple: dependence on private insurance revenue. To get paid, comply with insurer rules, they need these digitized systems.
Okay, a strong incentive.
Plus, local champions play a key role. Founders, tech-savvy family, trusted IT staff within facilities, they're enthusiastic, drive adoption, and the IT infrastructure needed. Remarkably modest, basic i3 computer, maybe tablets for doctors, accessible.
And what about skills? Capabilities within the hospitals?
Crucial. RX Health sets practical minimums H&D for hospital staff managing the system, recommends larger places hire formally trained IT staff. RX Health itself provides the initial training, ongoing support, ensures staff can use it effectively.
And partnership seems key again.
Fundamental. Clients become partners post-sign-up. RX Health assigns dedicated tech support, monitors transactions, addresses issues, periodic training, workshops, often leads to new features based on client feedback. Continuous engagement.
So the value generated? Economic and symbolic again.
Both substantial and impactful. Economically, facilities get powerful revenue monitoring, generation, efficient claims, reconciliation, reporting, streamlined subscription management, all impacting financial health. Symbolically, significant efficiency gains, vastly improved service quality, better patient experience. Crucially, empowerment through informed decisions for providers and insurers, and maybe most importantly, vastly improved fraud management. A clear, powerful example of analytics delivering tangible benefits across the whole value chain, combating systemic issues like fraud.
Fantastic. Okay, final case study. Let's dive into the dynamic, maybe overwhelming world of the social media economy. Huge data potential here. The case study is Digital Marshals Institute.
That's the one. Digital Marshals Institute, a digital marketing services firm specializing in social media analytics solutions, mostly in West Africa. Their story really shows this fascinating rapid evolution in how businesses are learning to leverage social media data for actual commercial gain.
How did their services evolve?
Quite dramatically. Adapted rapidly to market needs. Started with the basics, social media management, SEO, display ads, using platform insights for targeting.
Standard stuff.
But what's remarkable is how quickly clients, seeing significant growth, bottom line impact, started upscaling subscriptions, demanding more sophisticated solutions.
So demand pulled them forward.
Absolutely. They serve diverse industries, hospitality, banking, education, aviation, media, grew rapidly through client recommendations. This spurred them to expand into much more sophisticated analytics. Deep data extraction, cleaning, text mining, detailed descriptive, insightful prescriptive, crucial sentiment analysis.
What tools do they use for that?
Industry standards. Hootsuite social dashboard for management, Brand24 for monitoring mentions, Sentiment, Google Analytics for web insights, all to provide deep, actionable intelligence from that sheer volume of social media data, moving beyond vanity metrics like likes to real business intelligence.
What drove their success? Why did clients flock to them?
Two key things highlight a profound shift in client priorities. One, undeniable value for money in marketing. Digital Marshals' data-driven analytics offered far superior value than traditional ads.
How so?
Clients were often frustrated, high budgets for print, radio, vague results, Digital Marshals proposals, often a quarter of the cost, and campaigns frequently delivered overwhelming results up to 85% of total leads directly from social media.
85%, that's huge.
Astonishing return on investment led many clients to completely ditch traditional media, dedicate their entire marketing budget to Digital Marshals.
Wow, that's a massive shift. Does the report touch on the risks of putting, 85% of your leads into one digital channel? Seems like a potential vulnerability.
That's a really sharp question. The report doesn't explicitly detail the risks of that over-reliance, no. But it strongly implies the importance of multi-channel strategies and robust data governance for resilience later on.
Okay.
What it does emphasize, though, as the second key driver, was the increased awareness and demand for social media analytics itself. After 2016, social media became pervasive in West Africa. Businesses in Nigeria, Ghana matured beyond just seeking likes.
Right. They want a real value.
Exactly. How does engagement translate into measurable business value? Many lack the internal know-how to convert big audiences into money. This new awareness spurred them to actively seek external experts like Digital Marshals. The market demand finally caught up with the tech capability.
And the value generated for these clients.
Clear and compelling, economically.
Wow.
Direct revenue from new leads, significant cost savings on marketing budgets, even revising market entry strategies based on consumer insights. Symbolically, profoundly improved brand image, reputation online. And crucially, discovering entirely new customer segments they hadn't targeted before. Really shows the power of sophisticated social media analytics, applied strategically, turning digital presence into tangible growth.
Okay, so we've seen the winners, the incredible value being generated, but the report, as you said, doesn't shy away from the hurdles, the constraints. This is where it gets really interesting, the factors hindering broader success, the losers, systemically speaking.
Exactly. The report meticulously identifies 6 interrelated, pervasive factors constraining data-driven activities among indigenous firms. Critical to understand these because they're the systemic, deep-rooted challenges needing attention for widespread progress.
Let's tackle them one by one. First, and maybe most fundamental, lack of proper data governance and regulation.
Huge concern. Firms worry about security, privacy, no clear frameworks, assurances on how data is handled when shared, compounded by a general lack of robust regulation in many developing countries.
Even where institutions exist, like in Ghana or Nigeria.
Even where they exist data protection commissions, they're often critically resource constrained. Lack funds, logistics, skilled people to effectively monitor, ensure compliance in a rapidly expanding digital world.
And the practical impact.
It significantly impedes innovation, partnerships. Many international donors, larger companies, now require stringent data protection, cybersecurity certificates for grants, collaborations.
Right.
The RX Health example, informally regulated by client agreements like HEMPA, and not traditional bodies, highlights this gap vividly. Regulators are catching up or lack resources for comprehensive oversight. This fragmented approach creates uncertainty, stifles potential.
Okay, number 2. Directly related, you said. Scarcity of skills and expertise.
Profoundly problematic recurring theme. Solidaridad, for instance, struggles to find suitable candidates for data analytics roles. Notes a scarcity of expertise, lack of support from top managers who don't grasp the value. Digital Marshals observed many self-proclaimed social media managers lack the deep analytical expertise. Leads directly to financial losses, stunted brand growth for businesses investing without real capability.
Where does this skills gap come from? Education.
Largely attributed to limited African educational institutions offering relevant practical training. So most analysts are self-taught, learn online Coursera, YouTube, IBM's Digital Nation Africa. Resourceful, yes, but often lacks the structured foundation for enterprise-level governance, advanced analytics.
Third challenge, the tangible stuff, infrastructural issues.
Pervasive, huge barrier. Basic lack of reliable IT infrastructure, chronic poor internet, unstable power, both can grind data ops to a halt.
What are stats like?
Report notes only 26.3% of Africans were internet users in 2018. An increase, sure, but still a massive digital divide. Leaves huge chunks of the population, businesses offline.
And even for those online.
PZ Cousins found real-time updates hampered by erratic internet. Rural areas face immense difficulties accessing specialized IT reliable connections. Points to a pressing need for global infrastructure as a service platforms for less developed countries, rural areas. Need access to global datasets, tools. Without foundational infrastructure, even the best strategies fail.
Okay, fourth gap. Less tangible, maybe.
Low awareness or appreciation of the true benefits of data analytics and AI. Many business owners, especially SMEs, create social media pages because competitors do, or based on a vague sense of benefit, not strategic understanding.
Just following the trend?
Exactly. Report quotes, "Most leaders lack appreciation, relegate it to the background by tasking interns or temporal staff, sidelining data initiatives."
Wow.
There's even that anecdote. A hospitality firm fixated only on likes, despite hitting sales goals via data-driven campaigns. This mindset prevents strategic, long-term investment in data infrastructure, skills, prevents seeing data as a strategic asset. It's not just knowing about data, but believing in its power.
Fifth challenge. Poor information sharing, culture, and data accessibility issues. Sounds like internal politics.
Partly. It's organizational behavior. Employees can be resistant, view new apps as intruding into their territory, as RX Health saw. Silos data. Beyond that, critical historical data often doesn't exist, or it's stored manually in complex, siloed formats, limits robust analysis. The data itself isn't available, clean, or usable across the organization. Internal barriers as significant as external ones.
Okay, and the sixth, final factor sounds all-encompassing.
It is the overarching lack of funds and an unfavorable enabling environment. Indigenous firms often have severely limited resources. For IT investment, skilled people, software licenses meeting regulatory standards.
Right.
RX Health, despite success, seeks venture capital to scale. The Moroccan farming example. Smaller farms prioritize liquidity, hesitant about tech investment. Compounding this, incompatibility among digital ag tools, requiring costly integration.
And the broader environment.
Lack of proper industry regulation. Mismatch between trained people and available jobs. General cultural resistance to change in many firms. Digital Marshals noted, most indigenous firms' culture does not adapt to change whenever there is an innovation.
And the data itself can be a problem.
Critical underlying issue: severe lack of high-quality training data, high cost, uncollated, mixed online-offline, ownership permission issues. As data scientist Kelvin Wellington noted, African businesses risk being left behind if they do not have people with the right skills. It's multi-layered, needs a holistic response.
Wow, that's a sobering list of challenges. So after laying all that bare, what's the way forward? The report points to solutions, right? Not just problems.
Absolutely. It articulates a clear shared vision, emphasizes the critical role of African development institutions, governments, international donors driving a concerted data-driven agenda, systemic change, not just individual company efforts.
What needs to be done, according to this emerging consensus?
Resounding call for significant, sustained investment in skills and infrastructure. Governments urged to go beyond policy, create free, accessible training platforms for small businesses, regulators, youth, empowering independent workers.
And open data.
Development of open data platforms with sector-relevant data highlighted as a powerful catalyst. Encourage innovation, accelerate new digital product services like the USA's 160,000-plus open data sets. Access to raw public data is a game changer for startups, researchers.
And that notorious industry-academia gap
Needs bridging urgently. Universities, as Digital Marshals noted, largely lag behind on practical, industry-relevant skills. Report advocates, partnerships, dedicated faculties focus on data science, practical digital skills, applicable immediately.
including AI.
Including developing advanced capabilities in AI, automated tech. Solidaridad highlighted this need. Governments, universities need strategic investment here, building a talent pipeline meeting real-world demand.
What about awareness and access to data for learning?
Imperative for governments, public regulators to significantly improve awareness and education on data's value, enhance access to public data for training, provide the raw material for learning. Concurrently, strengthen monitoring, compliance within firms for responsible handling.
Raises a big question, doesn't it?
It does. How do we incentivize institutions, businesses, to not just collect data, but responsibly share and leverage it for broader societal benefit? Moving beyond individual gain to collective progress requires a shift in mindset, policy.
What about financial support?
Report calls for governments to provide strategic financial support, incentives, targeted programs. Driving a data agenda across sectors could mirror PZ Cussin's model with distributors. Tangible support for adoption.
And R&D?
Invest more aggressively in R&D for data analytics and AI. Initiatives like AIMS expanding its data science fellowship to industry, government officials' excellent steps. But the unwavering emphasis, these initiatives must be inclusive.
So?
Specifically target rural communities, the vital agricultural sector, provide necessary partners, resources to use data innovations for productivity, not just urban tech hubs. Continent-wide transformation, leaving no one behind.
Well, okay, the report brings all these recommendations together under a framework, the 3 A's.
Yes, a clear, actionable, memorable framework. The 3 A's: awareness, accessibility, and adoption. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Let's break them down. First, awareness, foundational.
Absolutely. To use data effectively, businesses need human capital. Technical capabilities, stats, data mining, visualization, acquired through targeted training, continuous learning.
Academia's role?
Massive. Perhaps most critical. Curriculums, policies need urgent revision, reflect data as the new oil, foster urgent skill uptake, and the call to catch them young, a continental agenda for pre-tertiary youth and data programs. Spark interest early. Cultivate a data-first mindset, K through university.
Beyond curriculum, open learning platforms.
Academia, with resources, partnerships, can champion open-source learning platforms for analytics, governance. Imagine the impact. Train youth, unemployed grads. Partner with indigenous firms for internships, leveraging local data for contextual knowledge, practical experience.
Building a grassroots culture.
Extend collaboration. Create data analytic science clubs, hubs in local communities. Learn from successful private sector initiatives like MTN Foundation's programs. Build a vibrant, self-sustaining grassroots data culture, learning beyond the classroom into real-world application.
Okay. Second A, accessibility. Big issues here. You mentioned data hoarding, language barriers.
Significant, frustrating issues. Political interference, lack of open source data banks. That quote from the Azure data scientists. Largely when you need data, it's either not available or sitting on someone's computer. The daily struggle, compounded by linguistic fragmentation, hampers common platforms across English French-speaking countries. The Uni of Ghana data scientist highlighted needing language translation to work smoothly. Data needs to be open and comprehensible, usable across diverse landscapes.
The vision is bold, though. Data entirely open.
Truly bold. The RX Health lead developers quote, "Data should be entirely open, not just within specific countries, if I'm an analyst. It should be open for me to access whenever I want, provided I have clearance." Revolutionary idea for data flow.
And boosting women's participation.
Crucial regional efforts needed. Targeted awareness, training programs, proactive affirmative action grants, tax incentives for employers, institutions promoting female employment enrollment in data fields, ensure inclusivity, leverage the full talent pool.
What about platforms for collaboration? Sharing public data.
Clear imperative. Establish common, interoperable platforms. Enable experts from different countries to collaborate. Access shared local data from public government agencies. Start by incentivizing African research institutions, governments, to share on a dedicated African open data platform, like they do on Mendeley data.
But existing open data initiatives are often idle.
They often are. Lack active engagement from media, researchers, startups. Report emphasizes continuous advocacy. Offer tangible incentives, national recognition, innovation grants to spur participation.
Sector-specific platforms, too.
Not just general data. Regional efforts needed for sector-specific open data platforms via professional networks. Foster deep knowledge sharing, networking, collaboration within industries. Lessons from Ebola epidemics, rapid data sharing was critical. Show the benefits. Prompt regulatory action, informed responses, understanding trends.
Okay, the third and final A, adoption, making it happen on the ground.
Requires conscious, concerted regional effort. Cultivate an enabling environment for data uptake by indigenous businesses. Not just encouragement, concrete financial mechanisms, grants, tax incentives for firms embracing data governance, innovation.
Treating public data as a public good.
Key recommendation. Data from public government agencies as a public good. Freely accessible, usable for developmental challenges, innovation, emergency response. Democratizing critical information.
Standardization is needed for sharing.
Imperative. Strengthen institutions regulating data enterprises. Create technical models for sharing within ethical legal principles. Strongly implies moving towards standardization of data governance policies regionally, not fragmented country policies.
AFCFTA is a starting point.
Seen as a potential starting point for harmonization. Though the report notes questions around FCFTA's actual big data readiness, its appeal to indigenous firms already facing national barriers.
And regulating the digital markets themselves.
Still in its infancy in Africa, frankly. Many rely on general laws not designed for the digital era. Loopholes exploited for cybercrime, eroding trust.
And those new taxes.
New taxes on digital transactions, social media, Ghana's e-levy, Uganda's internet tax, Nigeria's foreign digital services tax collectively limit trust, increase uncertainty, raise costs, inadvertently creating barriers to the adoption they seek to encourage. Significant hurdles to widespread adoption, institutionalizing a true data culture.
Wow. This deep dive, it's really shown us the incredible transformative potential of data across Africa, but also the very real practical systemic hurdles. It's clearly not a simple switch you can just flip overnight, is it?
Not at all. Look, regional efforts are undoubtedly paramount, the most promising path forward. However, this report sends a crucial caution, I think.
Which is?
African governments, the private sector, development agencies, they must be realistic.
Unmeasured.
In pursuing this data-driven agenda, achieving substantial, equitable gains across the entire continent, it won't be a swift victory.
No quick fix.
It will require significant time, immense patience, and above all, sustained, coordinated effort. Over many years, the journey has begun, but it is definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
That's a powerful thought to leave everyone with. The journey is undeniably underway. But patience, perseverance, and strategic collaboration will be absolutely key to unlocking Africa's full data potential. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into data-driven enterprises in Africa.